This is a narration by Tales of Terror. It is wrong, said Perturabo. Wrong? Said Fulgrim, as though the word were anathema to him. Haven't you seen yet? There is no right and wrong. We are beings of will and desire, and only by exercising the former and indulging in the latter do we move closer to ultimate perfection. Fabius's imperfect science might be crafting monsters just now, but eventually he will create something godlike. All he will create are bastard hybrids. Mongrel half-breeds that should be strangled at birth, said Perturabo. You should stop what he is doing before it goes any further. I will not, stated Fulgrim. Perturabo sighed and returned his attention to the clockwork model of the Warhound. You are never so certain as when you don't just know how wrong you can be, he said, picking up his tools and working on the machine's interior once again. Is it broken? Asked Fulgrim. The perpetual motion driver at its heart is losing time, said Perturabo. I thought that was impossible. On the contrary, said Perturabo, tightening a screw no larger than a grain of sand. A genius of old Earth discovered the theoretical principles thousands of years ago, but he lacked the technology to manufacture a working prototype. I have many of his journals and secret papers in my library, and was able to extrapolate what had been lost to draw up the schematics for Vulcan to build. Fulgrim nodded, already bored. I would have thought Vulcan would have better things to do with his forges, like making guns and swords. Then you don't know him at all, said Perturabo. His love of the forge encompasses all things, from crafting weapons to fashioning miniature wonders of artifice. But that one isn't working? Then he's not as good as I heard. No, it was perfect, said Perturabo. It was damaged during the fighting at Phal. It fell from a shelf and the mechanism was knocked out of alignment. If you listen closely, you can hear the variation in each cycle of its mechanical heart. Perturabo reached out and placed the Warhound on the workbench in front of Fulgrim. I have no interest in your toys, he said. Listen, insisted Perturabo. Fulgrim sighed and leaned in close to the table, turning his head to listen. Perturabo's hand flashed out and gripped Fulgrim's hair. With sudden force, he slammed his brother's face into the Warhound. The wondrous automaton shattered into 1,000 pieces as Fulgrim's head crunched into the pitted surface of the workbench. Bone broke and blood spattered. Cogs flew. Tiny springs and gear levers spun off. Fulgrim cried out in painful shock, and his captain surged forwards. The iron circles smashed them aside with wrecking ball blows from their energy shields, and before the Emperor's children could recover, the Trident were upon them. Perturabo hauled Fulgrim over the workbench, scattering drawings, fragile tools, schematics, and half-finished sketches. Though Fulgrim was fully armoured, Perturabo lifted him by the neck with no more effort than lifting a mortal man. Fulgrim spat blood, and Perturabo slammed his fist into his brother's face, snapping his head back with a crack of bone. Fulgrim's eyes blazed black, and his face glimmered with reptilian malice. He started to speak, but Perturabo didn't give him the chance. Like a fist fighter going for the kill, He battered his brother's face with pistoning jabs until he had him backed up against an iron column. He pinned Fulgrim in place and drew back his free hand to reach for Forgebreaker. The hammer rose, but Perturabo left the blow hanging. Fulgrim's perfect face was a wet meat wound, leaking blood, snot, and tears. His breath was hoarse and clogged with phlegm and broken teeth. His eyes were swollen shut. He tried to speak, but Perturabo cut him off again. "No, brother," he said. "I am speaking now, and you will listen to me." Falks, Kroger, and Forix hauled Fulgrim's captive officers over. Powerful arms wrapped around their necks, and wide-bore pistols jammed in hard to their flesh. "I have bitten my tongue and allowed you to bring my legion into this place," said Perturabo. "I have followed your lead in all things. I have listened to your tall tales and allowed you to set the pace of this expedition." Perturabo leaned forwards and said, "That ends now." He released Fulgrim, who held himself erect in the face of Perturabo's cold anger. "Your warriors have no discipline. Monsters fight your battles, and you have allowed an entire vessel to be sacrificed in the name of vanity. But no more. From here onwards, I am in charge, and for the duration of this mission, your legion is mine to command. Your warriors will obey my orders, and they will follow my lead, and they will do nothing except by my command. If you agree to that, then we will continue on into the Eye of Terror and finish this together. If you don't, then I will take my legion and leave you here. Do you understand?" Fulgrim nodded and swallowed a mouthful of blood. "I understand, brother," he said, his voice a gargled, mangled mockery of its once perfect cadence. "I understand that you humble me and expect me to swallow my pride, to be your lapdog." "I don't need a damn lapdog," snarled Perturabo. "I need an equal." "But I am not your equal, brother," said Fulgrim, grinning through his bloodied features, as though this outburst of violence was somehow amusing. "I surpass you in every way." "And yet I am the one holding the hammer," said Perturabo. "You say you want an equal, but where is the equality when you secure my assent at the end of a weapon?" Perturabo lowered Forgebreaker and harnessed it across his shoulder once again. He turned to the trident and said, "Release them." "My lord," said Barbenfalk. Caesaron struggled in his grip, despite the pistol wedged under his stretched open jaws. "Are you sure?" "I'm sure," said Perturabo, "because the lesson of history tells me that the best way to get what you want is to make sure you give the other man something too." "And what do you give me?" said Fulgrim, coughing a wad of red-flecked saliva. "I let you live," said Perturabo. "That's not much to give." "It's what I'm offering. Take it or leave it. Take it, and no one in the room will ever speak of this. You have my word on that." Fulgrim shrugged, as though the matter was of no consequence. He looked down at Perturabo's chest and smiled with reptilian hunger. "I see I have misjudged you, brother," he said. "Do you know how long it has been since anyone has caused me real pain?" "No, of course, you don't. But trust me, It's been a while.